What up? It's the Dropping Dimes podcast. I'm your host, Mark Veer, and welcome to episode number 20 with special guests Fetima Jordan and Jessica Brown. Ladies, how we doing?
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both for coming on. As a lot of people probably saw in the post, this is going to be talking from a parent perspective. And I know you both have listened to many other episodes, and we're just trying to touch on different subjects from different people, credible guests. So thank you both for coming on. Fetima, I met you a long time ago. DJ was 6 years old when I first started coaching him, and we'll dive into that kind of journey. And now he's grown into a young man. I'm extremely proud of him. And then Jessica, you and I have a pretty new relationship. Met you up here at the factory. You got your daughters in Player First program. And I enjoy always talking to you. And I just thought, you know what, let's get both of you on. Very credible. Both played at different sports at a high level, both coaches as well, and now kind of steering more as parents. So this is going to be a great podcast, a lot of information. We have a lot of parents that do listen. But before we dive into the questions and topics, let's just do some intros. Fetima, start with you. Let everybody know a little bit about yourself, kind of your journey and what you're up to today.
Hi, my name is Fetima Jordan. I've been in education now for 24 years. I did play basketball, but my passion was more track. I played at Judson High School, and then I continued at the collegiate level on track. And then after that, I got into, as they say, the real world, the business world. But I realized that's not for me. I wanted to be coaching, be involved with kids, try to make a difference in young people's lives. And so I got up with my high school track coach that showed me which direction to go to get into the coaching, because I got a business degree. I didn't get a teacher degree. So I went back to school, got my certification, and my first job was back at my alma mater at Judson High School, being an assistant basketball coach, assistant track coach. From there, I went to middle school for about 3 years, loved it. A great opportunity to learn more about coaching middle school kids, because that's a lot different from high school kids. And then I got my first opportunity being the head track coach at Northside at Brendan High School, was there for about 10 years. And then an opportunity opened up for me to become the assistant athletic director for the district. And so I'm starting on my second year doing that. And that's a little bit about me with the sports world. And of course, like you said, Mark, I have a son that's very involved in sports. And so it's been a great journey with him as he got into the basketball world. So can't wait to share a little light about that on the parent side of trying to be different from being a coach and a parent and not putting it together. And that's been really hard for me. So we'll see how, I've been working on that part.
Awesome. Thank you. Same for you, Jessica. Let everybody know about yourself.
Yeah. So born and raised also in San Antonio, actually went to private school growing up, went to Incarnate Word High School, a multi-sport athlete, volleyball, basketball, had a lot of great success there, breaking records, all good things. I think I was the first Division I athlete to come out of Incarnate Word High School back in the early 2000s. So played college basketball and played D1 out in California at University of Pacific for 2 years, and transferred and finished playing and getting my degrees at Houston Baptist, which is now Houston Christian University. A few years later, I found myself back in San Antonio, and now today still living here. I actually work in the corporate world, been in the corporate world in communications for about 20 years now, but very much like Fetima, just have a passion for kids. Have 3 kiddos of my own. I've got an 8, 11, and 13-year-old. So boy is the oldest, Jeremiah, then Mila and Sierra, girl, all who are big sports kids. So trying all types of sports, but basketball is an absolute favorite in the home. And so just found myself wanting to, introduce them to the game that I love, and, was able to travel the states playing and doing and seeing, just experiencing so many different things as a student athlete, and just raising them in that same kind of fashion. So coaching them since age 4, and still today, with the girls, with Players First, of course, and we're still in the rec league for my youngest in CYO. So we can talk more about that later on. But yeah, and then now very much also Fetima transitioning with my oldest to behind the scenes, stepping away from coaching him in the club scene over the last couple of years. And that's been a transition as well.
Awesome. Great intros. Appreciate you sharing that. Again, extremely credible and going to get a lot of information out of this podcast. So let's just talk about youth sports in general. Jessica, I'll start with you. You got an older one. You've got your girls are now some in rec, some in AAU. Your eldest is playing with Future. So you've kind of got different skill levels and ages throughout your kid. Loaded question, but let's just start. Kind of talk to everybody what you see right now in youth sports at all those different levels in San Antonio, the good, the bad, and what improvements you'd like to see.
Yeah. So I've actually been in the volunteer coaching scene for 10 years. So ever since Jeremiah really started when he was 3 going into 4, he's just turned 13 a few months ago. So all of mine, we started in CYO. We tried YMCA. It wasn't for us. Went to the CYO route and loved it, really. We were able to coach, as their father and I as parents, which we loved because we both played at a high level. And so we were able to really develop them in the way that we wanted to develop them, and then also be able to help develop kids along the way. I think even just from 10 years ago to today, I've personally noticed some changes. I've noticed that even more kids are moving to the club scene extremely early. And that could be for a variety of different reasons, and many of which are probably understandable. In those rec leagues, it's volunteer based. So you get a parent who may or may not know something about the sport. So it's understandable. I love that there's so many kids that are trying sports. San Antonio is a huge city built for families. And I mean, we're walking from a practice and we see kids on the soccer field and high school soccer. Across the way is club soccer. We're coming from a swim practice. That's a beautiful thing to me, where I think maybe the biggest focus from a parent perspective, again, playing basketball at a high level, coaching it, and also being a parent, is really just the most important thing I would say is the attention to the fundamentals at the elementary age. So I think that's probably the biggest gap that I've noticed right now. Give a specific story. I mean, in all of my kids, as they went through CYO in very early elementary age years, I mean, Sierra, who's 8, she would play on the co-ed team in TOTS. That's when you can start at 4, right? And, kids are running around. They're basically playing, football or track with a basketball, right? It's like, who's the fastest and can chunk up a shot on an 8-foot rim? And I would make our teams learn how to dribble. And so we would lose all the time because other kids are running and we're trying to run and dribble at 4 and 5 years old at the same time. I mean, we're going to lose. But then 2 years goes by, and now you get into these divisions where they allow playoffs to happen, right? And in these playoff scenarios, folks are being called for traveling and double dribbling. And our teams all of a sudden are just wildly succeeding, going undefeated season after season. And we see this huge skill gap happen, year over year, starting really in like first, and I noticed through 5th. And so I think just really paying attention and helping kiddos with the fundamentals at the very young age is what's probably missing the most right now.
I 100% agree. And that was even I had my little Admirals Kingston play for me in kindergarten. That's how long ago it was. And it's funny you say that story because it was similar to us. We go play in a little rec league and all the other teams would be traveling and double dribbling. And I was like, I don't care. That's fine. We're going to do, and we lost a lot of games. But then you look at those players from back then to now, to your point, I don't understand why CYO allows that. I'll be honest. I'm actually going to have a CYO director come on here. And that's a question I'm going to ask is I really feel referees and the rules need to be a little more strict in those younger ages. At 4 or 5 years old, I understand, but you need to figure out how to dribble the ball. Even if you're dribbling, picking up, not just running all over the court, right?
Right. I will tell you, kids are sponges. And I think sometimes adults don't give kids enough credit in like being able to put them in these tougher situations where they're going to have to go through some adversity, where it's like, no, you can't do that. Where you demand a little bit more excellence, and you'd be surprised. You put a bar and you set a bar as the adult, the authority figure in charge of a group of kids, and you stay consistent, right, with that bar, they're going to meet it. And then you raise it. And then they're going to need it again. But if, like the old saying, you give a kid an inch, they take a mile. So if you allow that behavior, they're going to continue that behavior. And then that also goes back to like the I generation of this instant gratification where sometimes the coaches, they don't care. The volunteer dad or mom, they just want to win. And that really ends up harming the kiddo in the long run. So it really should be about, helping the child learn the right way because it really helps in the long run.
Yeah, great point. And even with our little league up here, the fact we start in first grade and we tell our referees to call it tight early. And guess what the kids do? They adjust.
Yes.
First week may be really rough. We get to week 9, massive development. And to your point, when they start moving, getting older, they won't be getting called for those double dribble travels when they progress up. Yeah, great stuff. All right, Fetima, for you, I don't know if DJ went to CYO, but just kind of talk about him a little bit, his journey. I know we started very young and kind of his progression in AU and all the things that happened to him and where he is today.
So DJ did start actually with YMCA.
Okay.
That's where we started at. And like Jessica was saying, it was basically you're dribbling around and trying to make shots. And I could tell DJ was a little bit different from other kids, and he really he hasn't been taught, but he was determined to make sure that his team would win. He didn't get called for traveling a lot sometimes, but once he started realizing, okay, I can't do that, he started figuring out on his own that, okay, I just need to put the ball down more and just take it to the basket. And he was one of those daredevils. He'll just take it. But he also looked to pass to his teammates as well. But then I noticed that, hey, he needs to be challenged more. He's starting to love this sport. And that's when I got actually Cody, because I was at Brennan when all this was happening. He gave me Mark Veer's information and he started his camps. So we started going to his camps and DJ just started loving playing. And I was like, well, I wonder if there's any basketball teams he can start with. And so that's when Mark actually introduced us to the Admirals, and it was under Chris at the time because he had the older Admirals, and I think he was getting ready to start venturing away from the Admirals and doing his own thing. So Chris was starting up the younger group at the time. So we got involved with Chris and the Admirals, and something DJs just started to really enjoy. Admirals it lasted about a year or so, and then things had happened. And so we had to look into going into another team. And so that is something that we did with that. But I'm really glad that we had touched base with Mark Veer and also with Chris at the time to get DJ involved in going into the right direction with playing basketball, because that's something he truly enjoys doing currently right now. Just seeing him develop from 6 years old into now he's 16 has been a great journey for us. And
yeah, it's been a great journey, great young man, and now he comes and works our camps. That makes me feel
yes.
old. When these kids I train come back and start working for me, I'm like, oh my goodness. All right, so here's something that popped up. We've talked on other podcasts about CYO, I9 Sports, YMCA, and then select basketball. What is in between? Well, nothing really, to be honest, out there in San Antonio. And I've talked about my tier system and people are like, okay, but I believe it can happen. It happens in other sports. It's just going to take a lot of work. And we've talked about a governing body. There is not currently a governing body for basketball. And that hurts when it comes to allowing anybody to go play anywhere, right? So Jessica, for you, what are your thoughts on this gap? Because you're seeing it. You've been through CYO all the way now up to, traveling outside of probably the country with the oldest one. You will eventually, right? Where are we with this? How can we get this gap? I've always said that AAU is not feared anymore. It's not. It used to be very feared back in the day. Now I think everyone's doing select basketball. It's kind of got watered down. So what are your thoughts on all this that's going on currently?
So ironically, when I heard you talk about the tier system, that's exactly something that I was sharing with my basketball community, and we didn't even know each other back then, of that exact same type of system that was really needed. I remember thinking like, man, I'd like to build a gym out in like the forum type area there that needs something out there. There's a lot of kids that don't have the space and would love to do something like that. So I think like really between the ages of like second and fourth are like these prime ages where you'll get some kids who just have some really great natural ability. And they might learn some decent things, kinder first, pre-K, kinder first, but then they start to grow a little more. And those are those ages where you can get away with so much just being an athlete and never really learning basketball, like the IQ part of the piece of things. And then by the time they get fifth, sixth, now they're going into middle school, it's almost like there's now the gap got really big from the kids who did learn the right way and have the athletic ability, because you can't cheat time. I was really big on always, and still am, of playing my kids up. So Jeremiah, my oldest, hardly ever has played his age. In fact, he just played his age for the first time, like in the last 18 months, last 2 years. Still plays up some now today. And so he would get defeated sometimes because, families who hold kids back as well. So he's in third grade going against fifth grade bodies, right, in the club world. That can be pretty defeating. And so what I would just constantly tell him is like, listen, I can't teach you time. Like I can't cheat time. Time will happen. Your body will develop, all those things. But what we can teach you is the right way to play, like the skill development, the IQ piece, toughness, right? Those kinds of things. But I do think that age range is probably our most critical age range to focus on for the city, where we can really help kids move from just being good athletes with some potential to really moving into better preparation, pre-high school. So I would love to see a tier system personally.
I love you said second through fourth grade, because I'm nosy. I get on these exposure apps and I go look at scores. Those are the biggest blowouts. Second through fourth grade, there's 30, 40-point blowouts. Teams are scoring under 10 points a game. That's good for nobody. Not good for development, not good for the referees, not good for the coaches, not good for the tournament, not good for the fans. It's just not good for anybody. So I agree. I think that's a really good age. So tournament directors listening, just do a second through fourth grade tier system. It can be done. I truly believe it can be done. Unfortunately, it takes work. I know Mike Daniels, I know he'll be listening. He's trying really hard to do it. So the talk's out there. Thank you for saying that, because you have a lot of credibility in this space and you're seeing it as well. So great. Fetima, next question for you. Let's talk about sacrifice as a parent. I can tell you this because I've known you a long time. You're all in. You are DJs. biggest supporter, also his biggest critic as well. But just talk to everybody about your relationship. You have a great one, and just the sacrifices it takes for you, just the last 10 years and all the time and dedication you both have put in, and having a plan as well.
Yeah. Yes, you do know I am his biggest fan, his biggest critic. Sacrifices. Oh man, I'm a single mom. It's just me and DJ. DJ's dad, he lives in another state. So it is sacrificing with my career, coaching, getting him to where he needs to be. If it's trainings, his games, traveling with his travel team, just the financial part about it as well. It's been at times it's a burden, but it's worth it for him, because just watching him over since from 6 years old to 16 years old, he's grown so much in the game that he really loves. The fundamentals, like Jessica said, is important. It's all about fundamentals. And that's what I'm huge on, because that's how I grew up playing basketball, going to Judson. The coach I had, he was all about fundamentals. And the school that DJ's playing at for high school, his coach is the same way. It's all about fundamentals. So I love that about just seeing him grow, and just being with me with sacrificing is the time that you put into it, the miles you put into it, if it's in state, out of state, the long hours. But I know it's all worth it for him, and he sees that, and he appreciates it so much, and he knows how much I have given up. I do hate missing his games because of work, and it's rare that I do miss, but he's understanding that, hey, mom's got to work too, to make sure that we're good, making sure I need to be where I need to be. Now that he's driving, it helps. So now he can drive himself to his trainings, which he's done with Mark, and going up to factory, going to school. It does help, because there are times that I'm rushing from work to get him to either his practice, or picking him up from practice, or taking him to a training. And it's those late night hours when you're just really so tired, and you're like, son, we got to go today. But at the end, it pays off. So there are times I just got to suck up being tired, and I'll go sleep in my car while he's working out, or it's just countless hours. But it's been worth it, just to see how he's just been grown from elementary school, middle school, now to high school. So it's just, that's rewarding for me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And one thing I know about DJ is how much he appreciates it. I see a lot of kids and parents up here, and I just don't. I look at some kids, and I'm like, man, you have no idea. My kids are the same. Don't get me wrong. My kids are young, but I sure hope when they get to in high school, they appreciate how much, me and my wife have done for him. And I see that in DJ all the time. You guys have a great relationship. So it's nice to see that, though. He does really appreciate it. And then he works his tail off, too. I mean, he does everything that he's supposed to do, really work ethic off the charts, and can't wait to see what happens in his future at high school on the collegiate level for sure. Jessica, you want to add anything to that? I know you're bussing kids around. I see you doing swimming and basketball, you name it. Your girls are in everything. It's awesome. But obviously a lot of sacrifices as well. So what you got for us?
Yeah, I'm just echo Fatima. I'm also a single mom, and I think that the tribe that you build around you is just so important. And part of that tribe may just be the trainers who are pouring into your kiddo, right? Like, it doesn't have to be somebody actually helping be the Uber driver when they're younger. But I mean, my parents are close. They help a ton as well. I'm shuttling kids around, but it's such a selflessness. As a parent, there's a selflessness to it, right? Like, that's what it's all about. I'm a huge Theodore Roosevelt fan. And I really, for me, like, I would encourage all the parents to go out and read part of his speech that it's kind of titled Man in the Arena. So I like to call it arena parenting. And so if you read that, you'll understand kind of why I say that. But it's about rolling up your sleeves and being in the arena and getting dirty, and not just being the critic in the stand, because it's so easy. There's so many critics who want to always talk about your kids or other kids versus focusing on their own and putting in the work and on their own. So I was raised by two parents who were very much arena parents and sacrificed a ton. And you're right, Mark, like, as kids, they don't know that. Like, kids aren't supposed to understand the sacrifice, but as they get older, they do. And I think there's a saying, like, the older you get, the wiser your parents become. And so now, as a parent, it's very evident to me what my parents did from a sacrificing standpoint. And so it's truly an honor for me to provide that same type of environment for my kids so we can keep raising up those next generations.
Love it. Great stuff. Thanks for both sharing that. All right. So let's talk a little bit of life outside of hoops, or just sports in general, right? So I know so many parents over the years, so many kids that have just really, I get it. You're all in. I understand that. But there's got to be a balance, right? And, we're trying to get our kids to do other things as well outside of sports, because I think that's important. So, Jessica, for you, what kind of conversations are you having, or is this something you believe in? The importance of the balance of also recovery time as well, but also doing other things outside of just strictly basketball?
Yes, so I'm a huge proponent of multi-sport athletics, and it doesn't have to be sports. It can be anything. Throw as much as you can at kids when they're young. Like try it all. I mean, we've done gymnastics, soccer, swimming, tennis. Never haven't done t-ball, obviously basketball, track. It's like flag football. I mean, you name it, almost we've tried it and done multiple seasons of everything. I don't think anything's been like a one and done type of thing. And my kids still today, they're in seventh, fifth, and Sierra's in fourth. She's supposed to be in third, but that's another story. They aged her up when everybody else is aging down. Makes no sense. So, but even say, I mean, multi-sport athletes. I think as you get older, you have to dwindle down. But I think it's so important to have kids in different environments. I also have my youngest, she plays piano. And because for multiple reasons. One, like it's so good for the body, right? Like you use different parts of your brain, you use different parts of your body. There's tons of research that supports this. I've never seen research that supports a kid specializing in one thing from a physical or mental standpoint, like when they're in first grade for the rest of their life. And two, the social circles. So like when they go to the different events, so summer swim, for instance, like all of mine as of last summer, we're still doing summer swim. They have their friends in summer swim where they look forward to seeing them. Completely different than their AAU club basketball group. Completely different than their friends at school. And so that's really helpful because you learn things from different families. They get put in different environments. They meet kids from all kinds of backgrounds and walks of life. And it really rounds the child out. And it helps as a parent too. I mean, it helps really open up perspective for you as a parent as you're navigating kind of what's your next step, for that favorite sport, if it's basketball or whatever. And so I just think it's so important to be well-rounded and it not just be all about basketball from age 3 or the rest of your life. I mean, kids are burning out left and right. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I got some thoughts I wrote down. I love this. You talked about the social aspect. Our kids, Cam's in chess club. We just went to a birthday party over the weekend with all his chess buddies. There's 5 of them. Okay, cool. But you also, you get a lot of friends. You know that's expensive birthday parties.
That's true.
Because my daughter was at another birthday party from some friends that she was at school, but she's homeschooled for 2 years. I'm like, so they've kept in touch over Snapchat or TikTok. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's great to have all these different friends and pockets, but your parents, be ready to get them gift cards and everything else.
Listen, we're doing a playground birthday party for Sierra in February. It's free $99. You just have to pay for the cake and food.
Yeah, I need some help on that because my kids don't want to do that. I can't even come to the factory for free. Let's just play for a couple hours. But on a serious note, having different pockets of friends and even having friends that are not even interested in basketball, I think is huge. Just a different outlet, right? And I talk about that with mentorships. I have mentors that have nothing to do with basketball, nothing to do with refereeing, just good people that have just been, super smart. So that's all walks in life. So that's great stuff. Fetima, you want to piggyback or tag anything to that?
Oh, yeah. So like DJ, he started off when he started playing sports. I mean, he did T-ball a year or two, but he actually stopped before they did coach's pitch. And then we also did flag football. When he was in middle school, he also participated in track as well, which I was like so excited because I'm a big track coach over here, track guru. Thought he was going to continue.
What event did he run? He's a good athlete.
He did. You know what shocked me? He liked running the 400.
That was my event.
And then because coaching athletes in track, they want to be sprinters, 1 and 200. They don't want to run the quarter or the 800 or the mile. And I'm like, I love quarter runners. To me, I love that. So just hearing him wanting to run, he wanted to run the mile relay. He did that. He was on the 4x1. He started doing long jump, but he was going between basketball and the different floors. The shins started bothering him. So we took away the jumping a little bit, but he wanted to continue running track in high school. But the first 2 years of high school, they ran deep at his school for the state playoffs. So by the time he got done with basketball, track, they had like 1 or 2 weeks before it was the district track meet. So that was kind of hard to get you in shape from basketball shape to track shape. So that's happened for 2 years. So we'll see what happens this year, if he'll try to do track or he's just been straight with basketball. But yes, he has different sets of friends. He has his basketball high school friends. He has friends who play other sports at Veterans Memorial where he hangs out with. He also has his club team. They see each other once in a while, but they usually hang out more when their season gets kicked off. So, and then something that his high school coach always says, Coach Perez, be a teenager, take a break. It don't have to always be training all the time, playing basketball all the time. And I had to realize that because I was always like, we got to be in the gym, DJ. We got to get going. We got to, we got to get better. We got to go. And I realized I don't want him to burn out or hate me for pushing him so hard in basketball. I let him decide that. So like yesterday, he literally slept all day. He was tired. I mean, they've been going at it strong with school, and then they practice 6 days a week. And so he literally just needed a break because he's been playing games in tournament season with his high school team. So I had to realize it's okay to be a teenager. It's okay to take a break. You don't always have to be in the gym. I know he's going to work hard regardless when he's there. And so that's something I had to humble myself about. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah, great advice. A lot of parents listening, a lot of players listening. Like, yeah, and just be smart when you're in the gym, and then recovery time is crucial. Even Booth talked about the very first one. And he's got 3 phenomenal athletes with Jay Sean, Jalen, and LA, and they really do take care of their bodies and how important it is when they're not in the gym. So yeah, really good stuff. All right, let's talk about select basketball. I believe DJ's played for Hard Work entire AAU career. Is that a fair statement? After the Admirals?
So actually, after Admirals, we met up with Leonard Brown, Pootie, as they know him.
Yeah.
He had Team Relentless.
That's right.
We once Admirals, we were done with Admirals. We played with Pootie's team for a while. Then Pootie merged his team with Hard Work. And so that's how we met up with Terrence Booman Jackson out there. So we've been playing with Hard Work since then. Probably after the COVID years, so probably now I forget when COVID hit us again, but so we've been with Hard Work since then. What we looked for really when we were trying to go from after the Admirals is just someone that would just teach those fundamentals with DJ, develop his IQ for the game, not just, he's one of those players that's going to set up his teammates to be successful on the court. And Mark knows we've had our conversations on what are people looking for in basketball players. And I always tell Mark, DJ's not like the offensive kid, but he'll make things happen. He's the defensive kid. He sacrifices his body. He loves charges. And that's something that Booman has taught DJ over the years is they work on charges. And so now DJ accomplished by getting the career record at Veterans Memorial for the highest charges. He may not have the highest score all the time, like you see a lot of athletes and a lot of bloggers look for. I call them bloggers. They look for the offense. And I'm like, what about defense? So that's something that Mark has been really great at, letting me know he's fine. He's fine. He's going to be great. And so that's something that I look for when we were looking for teams is what's going to help him be developed, and also just experience playing basketball out of San Antonio as well. It's okay we've gone out of Texas as well to see that how basketball is different in different cities, different states. And just like what Jessica was saying, DJ plays up, they play up. The only time they play their age is when we go out of state. We'll play our age level. But once we're here locally, San Antonio or in Texas, we're playing up another level. And so that defeat at times, like you said, if kids are being held back or reclassed and you're playing kids that could be a little bit taller, bigger, and DJ's 5'9". He's not that tall, but he plays like he is. So that's something that I always have to encourage is he just plays with a lot of heart. And so that's, just being able to handle that defeat when you play up, but it's going to make you a better person, a better player. When you get to those tough situations, how do you handle it? And that's something that I've seen him now that he's being a leader on his high school team.
Yeah, I knew you've basically been with the same AU program with Pootie,
Okay,
and so yeah. And the reason I said that was because that's not very common. Let's be real. I mean, there's
that is true. That is very true.
College, high school, and even select basketball. I mean, kids are just on different teams all the time. So respect for you for doing that, for staying the process, staying with the same organization and trusting them and what they've done with DJ. And just to add some context to some listeners, Fetima hit me up about DJ. Like, hey, no one's really writing about him. And you're not the only parent out there that's asking that. Like, okay, my kid does all the small things, takes charges, gets a ton of deflections, great teammate, great leader, a bunch of assists, right? Just pick, 84 feet. I hate to that's not the sexy thing in basketball today. Why does anyone want to blog about that? And that's something we may touch on another podcast with some other people that come on.
Good one.
We've talked about social media. Not a big fan of it. I'll be honest with you. I don't like what social media has done to kids, but we talked about another podcast, so we don't need to go down that road. So thanks for sharing that. Same question to you, Jessica. What do you look for when, I know your oldest plays for Future and then your young ones play with Devon here. What are you looking for when you're picking a select team? Any advice for parents listening?
Yeah. So my advice, you have to know yourself and you got to know your kid. So when I say know yourself, for me, I know basketball, right? Like I played D1, I've been around it my whole, for the majority of my life. So when I'm coaching my son, and we were with Hard Work for several years, loved Terrence and Anissa, grew up with Anissa, played against Anissa. So I think our paths actually may have crossed, Fetima, as you were saying, the year. But like being very realistic, like with yourself and about your kiddo. And I'm never a proponent of writing a kid off, like especially at a young age. But nobody knows your kid better than the parent, right? Or the guardian, whoever is helping raise the child. And so I get people who ask me like, hey, I've got a friend who has this kid. Where should they go? Well, I can tell you the top 2 places that I would send my kid, right? If he's a boy, and that's Hard Work or Future. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right place for that child. And so, just recently, a friend of mine that we grew up in elementary and middle school going up in, and his kid was already in high school. And he asked, well, what do you think? Who should I get him? I think he might be a freshman or a sophomore. I go, well, what's the goal? Like, is it to play on varsity? And is it to contribute? Like, he's not going to play past that. So I think just having those very fundamental first kind of questions is really important. Like as a parent is, what's the goal? Right. And like, and what kind of character and ability are you noticing that your kid has? Right. And like, where do you want him or her to go? But like, and then from there, right. Cause some people might not be able to travel far. Like that's just not an option as a parent. It's like, those are important questions, right? Like what's finances look like? Like we have to be very realistic with that. The say-do alignment from the coaching staff, right? And like in being in a competitive gym where they're going to be put in situations that are going to be uncomfortable, they're going to be pushed, they're being held accountable, especially for young boys, like as they're growing up into young men. The same thing goes on the girls' side. And so just looking for those type of programs that have those components that you can see, like you can trust that they're going to help your kid, get to that next level step by step.
That's a great answer. I appreciate you going in depth on that. Like what you said first, like what's the goal?
Yeah.
If you just start there, I think that helps you kind of then make, a more realistic choice. I think a lot of parents don't do that. They hear of the futures. They hear the hard works. I want to go there. But to your point, can you travel? Do you have the funds to go do all that? Can you get to the other side of town 2-3 times a week when they practice, right? And then they're even ready for that culture. I've been in those gyms. They're not for everybody.
No.
So I get it. So that's really good. I think if parents listening, just what is the goal? And also maybe that's not your goal, the kid's goal. Because my goal may be I want my kid to go play college. Well, let's talk about your kid, right? I think having an open conversation with your kid and really understanding what they want, I think can really make you guys make the correct decision for your family. And maybe that could be later down the road. Maybe we're not ready for Hard Work and Future right now. There's nothing wrong with that. There's some really good other local organizations in town that do a fantastic job. All right, next question. We'll do both of you. So I put down here a organized coach versus a quality coach. Of course, you want both. Of course, I want to be super organized and I want to be a really qualified coach. Well, I've been around this a long time. They're very hard to come by, I'll be honest, right? You either have the super organized coach that doesn't really have the resume or the one that's a phenomenal coach and they got some lacking on the back end of administration stuff and all that. So which one would you pick if you had a choice? If you had a choice over organized or a quality, and you can't have one of each, all right? Sorry, you got to pick one. And I would love to know from a parent standpoint, and both of y'all single parents too, which one would you go with? Jessica, you first.
This is so easy. For me, there is absolutely no substitute for exceptional development. Like I'm going with the coaching staff that knows what they're doing in a tactical level. And especially since we're talking about like the club scene, there's so many clubs that have parent involvement. And I think somebody said this in an earlier podcast, and I'm like, absolutely. There's parents who can step in and help with a lot of moms are great with organizational skills, right? They can step in and help with that kind of piece, but there is no substitute for the development that is needed at the younger ages.
Okay. Fetima?
I agree with Jessica. I would go with the quality coach. And like Jessica says, I'm actually team mom for Hard Work. And so I do the organization behind the scenes for throughout the program. So that helps out. And I let them focus. Hey, you focus on coaching. I'll do the rest and we'll get this program moving and grooving. So yeah, I'm all for that coach that's going to help develop my son and other people's sons as well.
Wait, you're saying parents are actually helping organizations become more?
Okay, just me. I know I am.
Well, they should, though. That's what I'm saying. So your point is you don't like if it's not organized, then let me help.
Correct.
Substitute for the coach. Right? I'm 100%. I'm with you, right? My kids are in many sports. I'm always going to go with the coach. The organized stuff that they can get some help from that. They can figure it out. People can step in and do that. I think that's easier to fix than it is with the resume with the coach. So yeah, I know some really organized coaches out there. They're fantastic, and for some parents, they love that, and I'm not. But that's the ones that are running kids around all over the place, and they just need it to be super organized. The ones that are maybe wanting a little bit more, I agree with you. Every parent, if your goal is to get your kid varsity college, go with the coach, not the organization. So yeah, thank you both for saying that. I totally agree. All right, next question. I will start with you, Fetima. All right, so we're talking about trainers. I was fortunate enough to work with DJ. DJ doesn't work with a ton of trainers. We've had a lot of conversations on different podcasts, and there have been different feelings. Some believe you should have one main trainer and dabble with a few. Some think you should go out and just have multiple trainers and just get different voices. I have my personal opinion. I may touch on it later, but what do you think about, and you can talk from, DJ's perspective or just any parent listening, what advice do you have about a skills trainer? How many? What's right? What's wrong? How do you kind of navigate through that space?
That's a good one right there. For DJ, he really doesn't have that many trainers. I want to say 2. He has 2 trainers. I mean, yes, he'll go and work out with some of the hard work coaches, but as far as when Mark has his small group trainings, when he had his one-on-one trainings, DJ was with him the whole time. And so that was his go-to guy. If there was something that he needed to work on, it was me communicating with Mark on this is what happened in a game situation. What is it that he needs to prove? But yeah, with trainers is one of those ones that are they in it for developing your son? Or are they just in it for the money? Or are they in it just to take that credit like, oh, he's now this star. I did all that. There are some trainers that are like that. There's some select basketball teams that are like that. They want to take all that credit, but that's something that I look for is like who's there to help your kids, to get them better, to get them at the next level, who's also 100 honest with you. They're not going to fake it like, oh, you're fat, you're great, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. No, he's going to be honest. There's been some tough workouts with DJ, but DJ learned from it, and it's helped his adversity, knows how to handle that when it comes to a game situation, the pressure. And I mean, we've experienced it and just being able to be calm in that. So that's something that I feel like you don't have to have a lot of trainers. You can have like maybe 1 or 2, because just getting it from 2 different viewpoints, but also developing. And I leave it up to DJ. Who do you want to go to? Not who I want, because you're the one that's working. And so DJ goes, it's Mark and another person he likes to go to get that training in and get that advice in. Yes, he does touch base with his hard work coaches just to get a little bit of advice as well from them. And also being that DJ is 5'9", he's not a tall point guard. He turns a lot to with Pootie Brown, because Pootie's short as well. It's about the same, and they played the same position in high school and college. So he'll turn to him to get that advice as well because of the height and, what to do in situations. So like I said, just leaving it up to DJ, trusting his judgment. And now that he's older, I did it when he was younger for Mom, but now it's his life. It's what he wants to do, how he wants to get better.
Yeah. And I can speak on it. Me and DJ have had a very slow progression. Had him at 6, and I like kids on a slow progression now, just per my personal opinion. I've seen kids jump and then they just stay there.
Yes.
So, and I've seen a lot. So I like how his progression has been very slow. Like, yes, he's been through a lot of struggles, but each year he's just kind of made some improvements. So I really like the path that he's on. And you've been very patient with him. You have. I mean, some would want more, and you're just kind of like, hey, this is the way it is right now. Undersized guard that's understands his role. So yeah, I appreciate you touching on that. Jessica, same question for you.
Yeah, I am in agreement with Fetima. I will add that there is no substitute for you as a parent to get driveway work in at a young age with your kiddo. You really can be that first trainer, if you even want to call it that, when your kid is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like rebounding the basketball for them, paying attention in practice, right? Like If your kiddo's with a good coach, what are they doing? Right now, go take that and emulate that in the driveway or at the park. And so I'm a very big believer in that we don't need to make things harder than what they are. You don't have to have a gym membership. There's plenty of parks around with a hoop. I mean, my kids have been raised in the driveway with basketball, and still to this day, like, we still do driveway work. So I think there's that everybody should start with, right? And then also too, as they get older, Fatima's oldest is a little bit older than my oldest. He's in seventh. But we're just blessed to where all three of my kids are in wonderful organizations that have multiple coaches that all played at the next level. They're not just dad volunteers who never played, not even played varsity.
Good point.
These guys are not from San Antonio, played at the college level and or beyond. And so he's getting practice training and individual small group work from a variety of those gentlemen. And I say he because it's Jeremiah mostly. Me and the girls, I'm doing a ton with them by myself, of course, along with the Players First crew. So just that goes back to picking the right organization. Who is out there leading the charge in the drills and in practice? Because it's never going to be, if you're in a big one, the head guy is not going to be there all the time. They're not going to be coaching every team as much as they promise you that they will. So what does the staff look like? Because those are the people who are going to be pouring into your kiddo. So we kind of stay in the future in Players First family. So, I mean, you're looking at anywhere they're getting voices on the future side from potentially half a dozen, but primarily maybe 2 or 3, for my oldest. And then the girls is still very heavily me and Coach Devon and Coach Kai Odell, who you had on recently as well. So I think less is more if you have the right people.
Right.
Yeah. Good answer. I agree with both of you. I also do believe you can reach out to specialized trainers. What I mean by that, let's say your kid is really struggling on shooting. That would be an example. Go find a shooting coach that specializes. If you're a big, talk about Coach Briggs. Those, I believe, you can go dabble in some specialized training, but just going to multiple trainers, getting different messages, I don't think that's the right way to go. And I like what you said, in-house. It's the same with our kids. With gymnastics and soccer, they do individual training within the organization because it's the same message. It's the same message. They know how you play. They can really specialize to what you need to work on. So those are very good answers. I do agree. So parents listening, just, reach out, ask questions, and definitely go after credible resources as well. All right. So next question is the ride home. We've talked on other podcasts about how the ride home can affect a lot more than I think maybe parents may know in their kids. Our ride homes are fantastic. We've got my wife, who is very aggressive, and you have me, very supportive. Yeah, you might not think that, right? I'm the coach, my wife. Yeah, but we have a balance, and I'm okay with it. We've talked a lot about the ride home has to always be super positive and, just listen to your kid. Yeah, sure, whatever, right? I mean, I always say, I don't think there's a right way to parent, but there's definitely some wrong ways to parent. Everybody has different ways that they do it. So let's start with you, Fetima. What are your drives home like after basketball games? And we'll start from it's a poor performance. DJ had a poor game, and I know you're in the parking lot and you're waiting for him to come out, and maybe it was a Houston trip or a Dallas trip. You spent tons of money, and this is my weekend. I've got we're talking the worst scenario possible. We've all been there, right? And we're in the car and we're taking a deep breath and we're like, all right, what does your ride home look like after those type of situations?
Honestly, Mark, sometimes we don't talk about it.
I agree with that.
I leave it up to him. I can say a lot of times he falls asleep, so we really don't talk about it. We may talk about it the next day. Even now, let me back up. When he wasn't driving and I would pick him up after his high school games or whatever, if he wants to talk about it, we do an hour. I hear what he says. I'll give him my viewpoint. He'll give me his viewpoint, and then we drop it. We don't and we talk about him. We don't talk about, the coach should have done this, or, your teammates did this and they messed up, or no, we talk about DJ's performance because that's what we talk about. And there are a lot of times now, honestly, we usually wait. I mean, I try not to bring it up because I try to read his body language of how he comes into the car. Because if you get to know my son, if he doesn't want to talk about it, he's not going to talk about it. He's just going to shut down and be quiet. And so I don't want to force him to talk about something that he's not ready to talk about. So I usually wait and see if he's ready, or sometimes he'll just come out and just talk about it and we'll talk about it. So I guess that's how our rides home have been. I just feed off of how he's thinking or his energy. It's just how well you know your kid. If they're ready to voice it. And there are times that we may not talk about it at all. And I'm okay with that. Or he'll feel comfortable, honestly, he'll reach out to one of his coaches and they'll talk about it. Because I just try to be mom, not mom / the coach side of me. And so I had to differentiate that. It's like, put the coach hat away. Let me just be mom and listen when he's ready to listen and give him a little bit of viewpoint, but then be like, hey, move on.
Yeah, I've never been in the car ride home with you two, but if I had to guess how it would go, that would be the way that it would go, just knowing your relationship. So that's good. And that's good advice for some parents, reading your kids' body language and being like, this maybe just not is the time, and maybe just be a support system. Jessica, I feel your car ride's maybe a little bit different.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know. I may be
I
wrong.
want to know too. What is your car ride like?
Maybe a year, but just
Next.
let's hear about your rides on the way home.
It's dependent on which child had the game.
Sure. That's
Okay.
good.
So this is where I think it's got to be age appropriate. So like time, season, right? Like my 8-year-old, right? The emergency lights are not on right now. Like she's 8, right? So like the focus areas are going to be different than my 13-year-old who's in 7th, who high school is around the corner. So they vary. I'm certain I do not do this perfectly at all. And also not consistently. So there, to be completely honest, like there are times, and this was just last week, and this past weekend with Jeremiah, my oldest in 7th, where I got in them. And I am such a proponent. I'm like, I don't care if your shots don't fall, right? Because no player is perfect and is going to make every basket and be on every game, right? But I am a huge stickler on attitude and effort. Huge, because that takes no skill. Right? So are you, how's your effort? Are you sprinting down the court every single time? Are you talking on defense? Are you hyping up your teammate? So those kinds of things, right? And like the attitude, like when you get pulled out, for whatever reason, how's your body language on the bench, right? Like, again, are you being a good teammate on the bench? And so I think it depends. And so sometimes they need a parent to get after them. Right. So I'm not the rose-colored glasses parent. I'm very much, a matter of fact, kind of tell you like it is. Like I've been through the recruiting process, Fetima, I know you have too. It's like, I know what the scouts say and what they look for. Like I'm on the other side. And a lot of times Jeremiah will say, he'll get in the car and he'll say, how do you think I did? And I will reverse it to him. I go, how do you think you did?
That's good.
And then he'll usually give a rosy colored answer, and I usually disagree. So then I say, okay, so if you were a scout watching yourself, I want you to grade yourself in these areas. And I'll fire off like a couple of areas to really try and get them almost to have like an outer body experience of like how to learn how to self-critique in a very honest way. So I find, especially in the social media world, like none of my kids have cell phones. Obviously, nobody has social media. Okay. And I know that's probably the oddball out in this, but I can't stand all of the highlight stuff and all that. I'm like, that's not even real. And scouts don't even care about that. Like they're coming to see the full game and like, and how you perform and the teammate that you are. And a DJ, the DJs of the world, like, are they sprinting back and taking the charges? Like those are things that the next levels actually do want. And so I'm really trying to get them to understand that accountability piece, like looking at yourself critically in a critical lens, not in an ugly way, but just being realistic with yourself. Like, oh, I really did well in this, but you know what? I struggled in these 2 areas. Okay, now guess what we're going to go work on this week? We're going to zero in on that. So I think just being very honest. I'm also a huge proponent, I'm with Fetima on this, that it is about them in the car ride home. The minute I hear anything about a coach or another player, I'm like, nope. And I think they've known this now for so long that doesn't even happen in my car anymore. But I think for parents, that's a really, really, really big piece of advice, is to really just keep your head down and focus on your own kiddo, because it's a long journey and the coaches are not responsible for getting your kid a scholarship. They're not. Like it's you as the parent and the child's work ethic, putting in the work. So hopefully you get some good coaches along the way that can help, make connections and that kind of stuff. But it's gotta be about them and how different areas that they can improve in, and celebrating the great things that they did.
Yeah, great stuff. And they recruit parents as well. We know this. They're looking at actions on the sideline. I've read so many stories about athletes losing scholarships based on how the behavior is on the sidelines. This is kind of why I wanted both you guys to come on. You're both very different in your approaches. Both very hands-on, super supportive, active parents. And those are two totally different conversations you're having on the ride home. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them, right? Just based on the scenario. But now what you both said is that you're not going to talk about other people. Those could be very toxic conversations. Talk about the coach, talk about another player. It's hard to compare or not compare, should I say, to other athletes, but you got to stay away from that. And I love about talking about effort and attitude. Those are controllable. That should be a must. Every parent listening, your kids should be doing that every time, and especially the attitude. Things are not going well. What kind of teammate are you? How coachable you are? Those things. And then getting your kid to self-evaluate is great. We do the same with our kids. No, how do you think you did? And it's funny listening to younger kids. Man, they don't see the game the same way, do they? We're like, okay. I think you're too young to watch film, but maybe we need to watch film because the film's not going to lie to you. But yeah, I think those are two very different conversations, but also some similar stuff that's going on in the world. So I love that. All right, let's do some Q&As from some listeners. First one for you, Fetima. If you could go back to, let's say, when DJ was 6 years old, 10 years ago, is there anything that you would do different or any advice you would give to parents with maybe a 6-year-old starting out in basketball?
Be patient. Be patient.
Wait, we can't have instant success at 6 years old? We can't get that?
No.
It takes a long time.
Be patient. Don't compare your child's skill level to other kids' skill level. Every child is different. Every child is different. And that's just being patient and just motivating your child. It's going to be tough at times. They're going to be asking like, well, I'm not as athletic as so-and-so, but just let them know it's going to come. Just keep working hard at it. Anything I would change differently is just, man, that's a tough one. I mean, I think I've had some really good advice from some good coaches that has helped me get DJ going in the right direction and just sit back and observe. What's the best fit for your kid? Just because you see one team or one program being successful. And so my thing is just educating yourself a little bit better. That's how I learn more about it. It's just educating yourself how travel ball, AAU ball, club ball, however you want to call it. It's just educating yourself, finding the best fit for your child, your children, and then just how they can make a difference and be there for your kids, and just be patient. And you don't have to rush into something. It could take time.
Yeah, love it. And so simple. Ask questions. You came to me and I wanted to help as much as I could and get DJ around the right people that I trust. So yeah, appreciate you answering that. Okay, last one, and then we'll close on some quick hitters. Have you ever seen your athlete's passion waver? And if so, how did you handle that? Because it happens a lot. Kids that specialize at some point, and maybe it's in high school, right? Or any sport, just say that in general. Have they like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore? Or you've seen the passion go away and you're just like, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So the club world will happily take your time and your money.
Yes,
and
they
if
will.
you're not intentional, it will take your relationship with your child as well. At the end of the day, like the ball's going to stop bouncing. You got to hang your cleats up. You got to hang your leotard up. You got to hang your flippers up, like whatever it is. So I think the relationship with the child has to be first and foremost. And so this is again also too where I think that well-roundedness at an early age and consistency with that is so important, because it will really diminish the likelihood of a burnout. And so I haven't experienced that yet, from a basketball standpoint with any of my kids. But I think there is a balance in that sometimes at a younger age, most kids, if they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they're not going to be like, hey, what workout are we doing today, mom or dad? Like, they're not going to do that. So the parent is the one that's having to push, like the child. And there's some times where your kid's not going to want to do something. And so this is where like the adult really needs to be the adult. Do they need to work on something? Is this just them preferring to play video games and kind of being lazy, right? Where I need to push and make them go. Like I'm not opposed to making a kid go do practices and workouts, but you don't want to be running full court press starting at 4 all the way through 16, because it's not going to work. And so that's where you have to know like when the timing of when to kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit, and so forth. So I think within the last year, I believe the American Pediatric Association came out with a study on this specific topic about burnout in adolescent athletes. and actually did some research on like, and again, I look at this like it's kind of guideline or, a little bit of a guideline and structure. Nobody needs to follow this exactly, but they talked about how I think 13 and under shouldn't be doing one sport, more than 10 months out of the year. And they gave age ranges for each thing and had some science behind it around what it does to the body and the brain and the social components. So there's ways that we as parents should really help kind of nurture that healthy environment where they're experiencing different things and being able to be a kid, but also still knowing like when to push so that they can learn that they're going to have to do tough things in life if they want to be great at something. And you're going to have to do things all the time that you're not going to want to do, as you get older. So you may as well get used to it.
Yeah, love it. Great answers. But parents listening, I think they need to reach out to parents that have been there and done it. I think someone talked about it someone starting an AAU program. They want to talk to someone that cycled through many, many ages, right? I started an AAU program in 4th grade, and I had that class all the way through senior year. I've cycled through every single development of that kid. So we talk about it. I think it's the same with parents. You got a parent that maybe their kid is this age, and they reach out to somebody. Hey, what did you do? What worked for you? And that just comes to community. We've talked about this in San Antonio. San Antonio somewhat lost the community. I think a lot of people are afraid, or maybe maybe they're embarrassed to ask these questions. I don't know. But I think having these more healthy conversations can only help the growth of San Antonio basketball, sports, and parents and all that good stuff. So great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's close on some quick hitters. This is going to be rapid fire freestyle. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, you should be very nervous. All right. So the first one, which one are you? All right. So we're talking about a fan. Are you a stat taker, or are you someone that just watches the game?
Watches the game.
Watches the game live, and I'm watching film and taking stats after.
Let's do a little bit of both. All right. Let's talk about basketball tournaments. 1 day or 2 day event?
2 day.
As they get at a higher level, I like the 2 days when it's more teams at a higher level. At the younger ages, I'm good with the 1 day.
Okay. So Jessica, you're not going to make a decision today, right? You're going to do a bit of both?
It depends on the game.
All right, this one you have to. Right?
Time is important, right? Like it shouldn't be hogging your whole weekend as a 1st, 2nd, 3rd grader.
I agree with that. Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you. All right, next one. Sneak in drinks, or you support the concession stand?
Sneak in drinks.
Yes.
Same.
They're going to get you in the next tournament. They're going to find you.
Mike, don't listen to this one.
You've been put out there. Wanted posters for you. All right, next one. The most overused words yelled at a referee.
What do I always say?
I don't know. What do you say? You probably don't remember. We got to get some film on you.
I know, right? Was that really a foul?
Okay, so that's what you say. Okay, that's not a bad one. All right.
I always say that.
I really am unbothered by them. I think there's way too much focus on refs where you should just be focusing on your kid and how they need to get better. But what I hear absolutely is the foul stuff. Everything is a foul.
Yeah.
I need to be like Jessica.
Yeah, you do. I thought you come on,
ref. Let her get up for the next game. Next game, I'm just going to be quiet.
What won't happen? Yeah, I thought y'all going to say, come on, ref. I hear, come on, ref. That's, come on, ref.
That's a good one.
Okay, I should have said, are you serious, ref?
Are you serious, ref?
Are you serious? Really? Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
That's a license plate. All right, next one. Talk to the coach after the game or sleep on it?
Sleep on it.
Sleep on it.
Yeah, y'all say that like that's the norm.
It should be.
It should be. Is it?
Yeah, it should be, but a lot of parents listening sleep on it. It changes, right?
Yes.
When I was a referee assigner, I'd always tell coaches, you can't call me after the game. You got to wait 24 hours. There's too many emotions involved, right? All right. What is your go-to snack at the concession stand?
Peanut M&Ms.
Don't have them here. Sorry. I like the chocolate ones. Peanut. Gross. You get chocolate ones over here.
I'm not a concession stand parent.
You be sneaking in the snacks too. So you be taking it.
Yes, I'm super healthy. So I'm like, no, you need to have a granola bar or banana.
Okay. So what I've learned is y'all don't support concession stands.
No.
Got it. Love it. So that's some advice too for parents, right? Well, you're spending a ton of money to get there and get in,
Mm-hmm.
All right. Awesome. Way to end on some fun. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on. And it's a freezing day outside here in San Antonio. So I know it's been a chaotic day. Schools are shutting down, all that stuff. I know Fetima, your phone's blowing up, and then you got to shuffle kids tomorrow. We all got all kinds of stuff going on. So I do appreciate the sacrifice you both coming on. You guys are phenomenal parents. Thank you for the information that you give us. This is only going to help so many other parents listening out there. So thanks again. And again, we'll be talking soon. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Dropping Dimes podcast. Make sure to go follow us on IG at Dropping Dimes Pod. Remember, each Friday we'll be dropping a new episode. So hit the follow and bell notification buttons to never miss any content. Let's get better together. We out. Oh